Hello everyone, I hope you guys are well. Today we're going to be talking, this is Jen. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about my next video in breaking the spell. So today is don't let them hijack your outrage, right? We're going to talk about how conspiracies distract us from the real abusers in power. And this is so important because we're doing what they want. We're getting stuck in these conspiracies. And they want that because when you're chasing a illusion, right, you're not taking down the system of power in place. So it's important to understand, of course, that there are real systems of abuse in this world. I'm sure many of us have experienced or been connected to abuse in some way. Child trafficking is real, of course. Institutional cover-ups are real, of course. The powerful do operate above the law, far more than most of us want to admit, of course. So when someone says there are horrors happening in Gaza or children are being exploited by powerful elites, they're not wrong at all. What's happening in Gaza is horrendous. What is happening to our children is horrendous. But here's where it gets dangerous. When that outrage, the kind that comes from deep care, where we care, when it's hijacked, and that's a problem. And it happens all the time. So what starts as a righteous call to justice can quickly morph into a narrative full of ancient bloodlines, satanic ritual abuse, Moloch worship, and secret cults with Jewish sounding names. And you would never know the fact that this often stems from anti-Semitism, right? You're just going to get pulled in like, ooh, what's this? This sounds exciting. Ooh, right? And before we know it, we're not talking about real systems of harm anymore. We're chasing phantoms. Some lineage, some, it's like the Rothschilds, and none of that matters. None of it matters. It's not truth-telling. It's narrative warfare. And it's designed specifically to confuse you. Conspiracy networks don't begin with obvious lies. They begin with twisted truth, distortions. Yes, Epstein was real. And everything that he stood for and exemplified was horrible. Yes, children have been trafficked by the rich and powerful. Yes, governments lie about war. They cover up abuse. They survey their citizens. Surveil their citizens. We are seeing that pervasively right now, especially under this new Trump administration. So whatever was happening prior, and I'm not going to sit here and put other presidents on a pedestal because they all have their own power abuses to answer to. But what is happening right now is what we need to focus on, okay? And it's like everything on steroids. But instead of following that truth to real power, right, when we know that this stuff is real, right, we look to see how where that thread goes, legal loopholes, corporate networks, black budgets, these conspiracies reroute you into a closed loop where nothing is real except the story they're selling. So instead of following that truth to real power, legal loopholes, corporate networks, black budgets, because that's where we will discover the truth, the conspiracies reroute you into a closed loop where nothing is real except the story they're selling. And it feels very seductive. It feels secret, right? It feels like some kind of hidden knowledge that you're coming into contact with. It makes you feel like you've woken up, but it's not liberation. It's misdirection. So how does this hijack work? Because it is a pattern. And when you're highly attuned to it, you can see it, you can sense it, right? So it starts with the real harm, trafficking, war crimes, cover-ups, whatever it may be. Then you introduce some hidden villain. Ancient bloodlines, satanic elites, right? Some elite cabal. Then you flood the field with coded language and spiritualized fear. Carbon slaves, Great Reset, right? Satanic ritual abuse. Then it exploits our unconscious bias. Anti-Semitism, anti-immigrant fear, anti-blackness, anti-wokeness, anti-Muslim, right? It's an unconscious bias that we already hold within ourselves, likely because it's been programmed there and it's not real. I'm sure like an example of this would be growing up here in the United States, in our educational system and how we may have learned about history. It was very whitewashed, right? And now they even want to make it even more whitewashed, but I'm not going to go into that right now. But it has been based in, right, some type of American exceptionalism, right? Yay, America. And, me as somebody who is very deeply aligned to patriotism, and like it's very enticing, right? So we want to believe something, and so we pick it up and we believe it, and we take it on, we take it inside, right? And we operate from that space, we hold it within ourselves, right? And we're not always aware of all of it, right? And it isn't until we actually start doing the work and we start deconstructing it, the narratives that we've been told and we've been sold, on and all those things, right? That's a part of the work, right? And this is a part of recognizing kind of a portal into that work, right? How have you been hijacked? To support a narrative or a energy field that really isn't doing the work. You're just being extracted for your energy. Right? So that's why it's important to really get in touch with your unconscious bias and where that comes from, and find the root of it. I know, in this country we've grown up very pro-Israel, yay Israel. It's like the 51st state. I heard somebody say that the other day, and it's true. But if you actually take the time to understand the history of Israel and how it was founded, and the blood and this is not coming from a space of it being about Jewish people, right? This is Israel, a state, right? And of course, people who support it, right, they're caught up in it. But I'm trying to tell you, it's propaganda. If you go back to the founding documents when it comes to Israel, you will see, just as if you go back to the United States, our American founding documents and the true history, you will see how, right, we have slavery in our history. We have genocide in our history, and that is real and that is true. And learning about that is important to understand. We need to know our history. If you can't know where you've come from, you can't know where you're going, and that is just it, right? It just is. It's important that we grow up knowing our history, so we don't have to do all this unpacking and dismantling and trauma work, because it is trauma. We've been told lies, and then when you find out what is the truth, that is traumatizing to the human system. It is traumatizing. Okay. So, right, that's what it does. It exploits our unconscious bias, or what we've been fed to, you know. It discredits real sources while elevating anonymous whistleblowers and conspiracy prophets. So I can't tell you how many times, like, out there in, you know, internet world where, like, somebody's going to post some, I don't know, maybe it's a screenshot of a post by somebody on Facebook, or like a document that has no sourcing attached. Like, that is just, that is not that is not a true source. A true source is going to come from it. It's going to be documented. It's going to be able to be verified, right? You have to be able to verify a source. If you can't verify a source, it means nothing. You got to learn that. You got to learn that process of discernment, right? That will be your clue to, I'm getting pulled into some bullshit narrative that's just not true. So I get pulled off my path, my true path, right? You have to find that. And then what it does, it breaks your trust in discernment until nothing feels real unless it fits their worldview, right? You no longer have access to that ability to discern. So it really is, it breaks you down so you are easier to control. That is the way it works. Okay. So while everyone's busy chasing rabbit holes about bloodlines and Wayfair, or, you know, any of those things, here's what's actually happening. Actually happening right now. Surveillance tech tested in Gaza is being sold to police forces around the world. AI tools meant to detect abuse are being turned against activists and journalists. Billionaires are funding media to reshape what we believe is real. Abusers like Andrew Tate, who openly brag about trafficking, are not only unpunished, they're being celebrated. They're being brought back into this country and platformed. Did you know that? Do your research. Look it up. Actual human trafficking. Andrew Tate is being celebrated. While you think that this guy over here in power is actually going to end child trafficking, and yet it makes no sense, right? Think about it. That's not awakening. This is alignment with patriarchal power. And there's a reason why you're being pulled into it. And when you can get to the root of that, then you will find your healing. I promise you, right? It's there. It's there in it. It's there in it. The transformation is within that breakdown, within that dismantling, within that removal from that spell that you are in. I recently came across an article claiming to expose some ritual abuse, specifically in Israel. And at first I clicked. I wanted to know because I care, because I don't look away from state violence, because I do want to protect children. But as I kept reading, especially the comments, I felt something shift. The focus wasn't on survivors. It wasn't on justice. It was a spiral of conspiracy. Elites, ritual sacrifice, cults, global Jewish control. And in that moment, I had to stop because I know the difference between confronting power and demonizing entire peoples. There's a huge difference between critiquing Israeli state violence and spreading ancient conspiracy theories that blame Judaism as a whole or Jewish people for our problems. That is what Hitler did. That's how truth-seeking gets hijacked, and it's why discernment matters. Real resistance doesn't need myth. It needs clarity. And if your truth movement is scapegoating whole ethnic or religious groups just to feel powerful, that's not truth, that's projection. So if the story you're following names an entire religion or culture as the problem, talks about child sacrifice or satanic cults with no evidence, no facts, and paints everyone outside it as asleep or evil or propagating it, and centers secrecy, fear, or esoteric insider knowledge, then it's not truth. It's a hijack. So in conclusion, you were right to care. That is who you are. You were right to question. That is who you are. You were right to see that something is deeply wrong. That is who you are. But don't let them steal your clarity. Don't let the distortion drown your instincts. Come back to the root. Real resistance is grounded. It sees power as a structure, not as a symbol. And it fights for truth, not fantasy. Not for some egoic fulfillment of, I was right, ha ha. That's a hard one. That's a hard one. We need you here. Eyes clear, heart open, feet on the ground. So there it is. I am going to share some different practices coming up that can help you in this process. And I hope you look forward to some of these practices. It will definitely help you to clear your energy field and what you got going on inside of it, right? And what that means is to become aware of the patterns that are driving you, any external hooks, we could say, that might have hooked in you, right? And it's very easy to get pulled into this like space of isolation and like not trusting anybody because of this. And I totally, like, that is valid. So find your people, right? Find your people. Maybe reconnect with some people that you may have lost contact with, that are rooted and grounded. It's so important. But I look forward to sharing more. And please like, share, comment, subscribe if you want to get access to more content. Until next time, toodaloo.